Hey there, I'm Dr. Mohar, and today we're going to talk about your metabolism, specifically what we can do to make over that metabolism when things go south. Now, people will often say things about their metabolism like, gosh, I just can't lose weight, my metabolism is so slow. Or those lucky few, I can't keep the pounds off, my metabolism is super fast. There might be some truth to these statements because there are genetic reasons why metabolism might be higher or lower, but the issue is most people don't really understand what metabolism is and what it means. They pretty much only equate it to weight loss and weight gain. While there is a part of that, metabolism is so much more. To break it down to the nuts and bolts, metabolism starts with taking food, digesting it through our digestive system, and most importantly, creating energy from that food. That energy is then disseminated to the entire body. That's your cardiovascular system, back to your digestive system again, your musculoskeletal, even your immune system. And all that energy is used to drive what your body needs. So what that means is, it's not just weight loss. It's affecting your entire being, your entire system. And that also means that we can run into issues that we don't always link to metabolism. There are a lot of disorders that metabolism can be affecting that you may not even know. Things like high cholesterol, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, even fertility problems, and arthritis and chronic pains can all be associated with a disruption in your metabolism. In fact, so many people have metabolic disorders, don't even know it. It's estimated that 88% of Americans are suffering from some form of metabolic disorder and have no clue because they're not linking those symptoms together. They think it's all about weight loss. It's simply not. So, what are some warning signs you should be looking out for? Things like fatigue, issues with your thyroid, cold extremities, loss of fertility or low libido, brittle nails, hair loss, obesity, and even just being plain irritable can all be signs that you might have a metabolic disorder and you need to work to fix your metabolism and boost it up. So before we get to how do we boost our metabolism and make it over, we have to look on what is causing these problems in the first place. Specifically, there are a series of metabolic disruptors, chemicals that are found in ordinary everyday cleaning supplies and even as additives and preservatives in some of our foods that we want to make sure we're avoiding at all costs. These include things like BPA, dioxins, atrazines, phthalates, perchlorates, fire retardants, the obvious ones that we should all avoid: lead, arsenic, and mercury, hello poison, PFCs, organophosphate pesticides, and glycol ethers. So when we're looking at the things we use every day to clean our clothes, clean our house, we want to make sure we're reading those labels carefully and trying to weed out these things whenever possible because they are being absorbed into our skin, affecting our metabolisms in a very negative and adverse way. The second place where we get disruption in our metabolism is, quite frankly, our diet, the things that we put into ourselves every day in our food. We all, or at least most of us should know, the standard American diet is really not healthy. 2/3 of America is obese with heart disease and other issues as a result of it. And it really comes from all the high bad fats, sugars, and ultra processing that happens to most of these foods. So as you'll see later, when we look at what should we be eating, we want to make over our metabolism, we're going to work on eliminating a lot of these things because it's just making us sick. Now, I want to stop for 1 second and just talk about body positivity. It's a big movement where we should all love ourselves for who we are. And I absolutely agree with that. Every person was made in God's image and we should love ourselves. But what we don't want to do is normalize a disease. And don't get it twisted. Obesity is a disease. It causes other diseases. So we need to love ourselves for who we are. We also want to make sure we're taking care of ourselves, taking care of that temple that He gave us. So love yourself and love yourself enough to make a change. Now, in making that change, it's important to know that 95% of fad diets fail. So when we're trying to get things like obesity under control, we have to go about a smarter way to do it. The main reason fad diets fail is because they force your body into a mode of starvation. When this happens, there are two very important hormones that get disrupted. The first one is leptin. That is the hormone that tells your body to stop. You're full. You don't need any more. When you're on a starvation mode, leptin crashes, meaning you're not likely to know that you're not hungry anymore. Conversely, the other hormone, ghrelin, is the hormone that tells you, I want to eat. You need more food. You're about to die. And ghrelin gets kicked up. And so when those hormones are out of balance, it's next to impossible to stay on a good diet. You're almost always going to cheat and go down the wrong rabbit hole. So, what do? Well, science has shown that intermittent fasting is a very appropriate way to mitigate the effects of starvation mode while still being able to help control a healthy and manageable weight. Intermittent fasting is the concept of restricting your food intake, that's not only solid foods but liquids, anything with calories in it, to within a restrictive window. We generally recommend starting in an 8-hour window. So as an example, eating all your food between 12 and 8, or if you want to go the other way, maybe 8 and 4. The exact time of day doesn't matter, but it's that restrictive window that helps prevent ourselves from going into starvation mode while still being able to restrict excessive calories, thereby keeping our hormones in balance and allowing us to thrive on that new diet plan. As you become more accustomed to intermittent fasting, it can be appropriate to restrict to closer to 6 or at the very minimum or very maximum a 4-hour window in order to help yourself if you have more pounds to go than, say, a normal person. So a fun fact about metabolism is that it never stops. Even when you're at rest and you're sleeping, it is always going. Because remember, your metabolism supplies energy for everything your body does. That's for your heart, for your lungs, for your muscles, for your immune system, for your cells to grow, heal, and recover from whatever you put them through. So that means that we have a basic amount of energy that is required every single day, no matter what else we do. Even if you never get off the couch, you have to make energy, and you are going to burn it. This is called your basal metabolic rate, or your BMR. Now, this is where genetics come into play. There are some people who just naturally have a higher BMR, and oftentimes it's influenced by things like gender, age, and body composition. In general, younger people tend to have a higher basal metabolic rate than older. In general, men tend to have a higher BMR than females. And then larger people with a more lean composition, meaning more muscle and less fat, tend to have a higher basal metabolic rate. And so while you may not be able to control all these things, you at least know that no matter what, you have a set amount of energy your body is going to use. So when it comes to boosting it, we have to look at what else can we do to round everything into form and maximize your metabolism. The first thing we want to do is look at the power of hydration. Water is incredibly important for all your cells and their function and how they operate, especially in the case when we're trying to boost your metabolism. You want to up your water intake significantly. When we're doing a metabolism boost, we're looking at a 30-day window where we're doing a drastic makeover. Beyond that 30 days, it's up to you to figure out what you can stick with. But in this 30-day period, we recommend doing a ½ ounce of water per pound of body weight every single day. That means if you are 140 pounds, you need to drink 70 ounces of water. If you're 200 pounds, that's 100 ounces of water. You heard that correct. It's a lot. But drinking more water is going to maximize your cellular efficiency, and it's going to help you actually burn more calories through your body having to process that water as well. So it's a win-win on both those ends. And remember, it's only 30 days. After that, you can lower it back down to a more manageable number. But remember, water is still important. We don't want to cut it out altogether. As far as eating goes, the metabolic boost plan that we're going to show you is meant to burn fat, get rid of toxins, reduce inflammation, and balance those important hormones for you. In doing so, maximize your metabolism to your best benefit. On the screen here, you're going to see a long list of foods that you can go shopping with, broken into proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and then seasonings to make things taste a little bit better. Sometimes healthy eating can be bland, and we don't want that. That makes it harder to stick to. You'll notice here that under carbohydrates, it just says vegetables, because guess what? You can have all those you want. Vegetables are very low in calorie, very good sources of vitamins and minerals, and good source of clean carbohydrates. So breaking these down more specifically, looking at protein, we want to increase our protein intake during this 30-day period. So whatever you're doing, plan on doubling it. There's 2 reasons for that. 1, protein increases your calories out. It takes more energy to digest and convert protein into energy than it does fats or carbohydrates. So just by virtue of eating more protein, you will already be boosting your metabolism. It's also very important for protein muscle synthesis. If you're doing any sort of exercise, which we'll touch on later, you're going to need that protein to help build muscle to increase your basal metabolic rate. Now, as far as sources of protein, even though that list gives you the types of meat you should have, it's very important to look at what did that meat consume during their lifetime. The food that your food ate and the chemicals that were given to your food are going to impact what you're getting as well. The quality of the meat suffers the more steroids and hormones are given to them, and especially if they're not eating natural sources themselves. So what we're looking for is wild-caught salmon and fish, your free-range chickens, and grass-fed beef specifically to maximize the value of that protein you're taking in and the quality for your health. Now, when it comes to grass-fed, there's a bit of a label trick that you need to be aware of. If on the label it says nothing about being grass-fed, put it back. That's conventional. You never know what's in that. Now, if it says grass-fed, there is a rule that says they can be up to 30% grass-fed in total and still be labeled as grass-fed beef. So what you really want to look out for in the best case scenario is grass-fed and finished. That means they are 100% grass-fed, the best quality meat you're going to be able to get for you, for your family, and for your health. So just don't be tricked by labels. There's a lot of tricks out there. This is just one of them that I really want you to be aware of. Now, looking at fats. For a long time, especially back into the 90s and early 2000s, we were led to believe that fat is bad for you. That is anything but the case. Fats as a whole are incredibly important in hormone production and hormone balance. In fact, about 60% of your calories should come from fats as a whole. The importance is what types of fats are you consuming? When you're reading labels, what you want is the unsaturated fats. Those are your good healthy fats, the kind of fats you're going to find on the list in the previous slides. What you want to avoid at all costs are your saturated and even more so your trans fats. These are the fats that lead to obesity, that lead to heart disease, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, all the things that make us sick and are plaguing our country now. So read your labels carefully. If nothing else, just stick to the list that we gave you and you'll be in a good spot. But do not cut out the fat. You do need it. Now, another thing I want to point out is that not all foods are created equal when it comes to their calories. 1 calorie is equal to 1 calorie no matter where the food source comes from. But there are some sources of food that are much more dense in calories, but aren't going to give you the volume that you need to be satiated. The example we have on the screen here is broccoli versus peanut butter. 200 calories of peanut butter is like 2 tablespoons. Yeah, it tastes good, but it's not giving you a whole lot in the way of satisfaction in the big picture of getting full. Whereas 200 calories of broccoli, by itself, not as tasty, but we're talking bushels and bushels and bushels that you could eat for the same calorie content and be way more full if you can find a way to prepare it right. And this is just one example. But the point is you want to be looking for what we call low-calorie dense foods. Foods that have a lot of volume. Again, think vegetables as a great example, but fewer calories per net weight. The more of those you can put into your diet, the more satisfied you'll be in the end, the less starving, less hungry. So just keep that in mind when you're building a grocery list, planning your menus. You want to make sure you're going for those low-calorie dense foods more so than the high-calorie dense foods. So now we get to exercise, and we're not going to dive too deep into exactly how to exercise, the best types. We have lots of great workshops on that I really encourage you to look at. But when you want to boost your metabolism, exercise has to be a part of it. We all know that getting up and moving is going to burn more calories and balance out your metabolism. That's why exercise is such a big deal when you're trying to lose weight in particular, because we know getting up and moving is a great way to do that. But another really good benefit is that exercise, generally speaking, will help you to lower your fat content and increase your muscle mass, which, like we mentioned earlier, increases a higher basal metabolic rate. So the effects are compounding interest. The more muscle and less fat, the more your basal metabolic rate, the easier it is to maintain that healthy weight and a healthy metabolism. So get up and move. And again, I recommend those workshops to take a look as far as exactly what the best type might be for you. Now, kind of branching off of that, there are 2 terms I want you to be familiar with, EAT and NEAT. EAT is exercise activity thermogenesis. This is the energy your body expends through active movement. Again, think exercise, a planned activity to go out, get your heart rate up, get the blood pumping. NEAT, on the other hand, is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is the energy your body expels through your normal daily tasks. So going up the stairs, walking around the house, doing the dishes, doing the laundry, folding the sheets, whatever it may be, those all require excess energy beyond your basal metabolic rate as well. And studies have shown that even people who are active in exercising, their NEAT, generally speaking, accounts for 2 times as many calories burned or energy needed than their exercise activity thermogenesis. Now again, that's not going to be true for everyone. If you're out riding the bike 10 hours a day, that might take the cake. But NEAT is a very important thing that you can add in intentionally to help get your metabolism back on the right place. Think, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, parking further away in the parking lot, taking the long route around the grocery store, or just simply getting up and walk around the house instead of sitting and watching TV by yourself. If you can make these little changes, they can have a drastic effect in the big picture. But again, it all comes back to get up and move. And so finally here, I just want to talk about what motivates you. Because any time we have big life changes, especially in a big drastic makeover like what we're talking about here, there are going to be roadblocks that come in place that try to get in the way and push you off path. It's inevitable. Things that are good for us are not always easy, and especially when it comes to diet and exercise. If we're not used to doing these things, they're going to come and try to knock you down. And so if you have a big enough why as to what you're doing, whether it's intrinsically motivated or doing it for the people you love, then you can endure anything that life throws at you. You can stay on that path. But before you start your journey, you have to make sure you're setting the proper why and the proper goals so that you're not stumbling out of the gate. So when we look at setting your why and your goals, you want them to be SMART. So that acronym stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. They need to be specific in exactly what you want. Because if you are vague, it's very easy to shift focus away from your goals. If you can't measure and quantify your goals, then it's impossible to know where you're actually reaching them, and therefore hard to find motivation. If your goals are not attainable, well, then you're obviously never going to reach those goals. If you're trying to lose 100 pounds in 2 days, sorry, that's not going to happen. So you have to be realistic with what you're trying to achieve and make sure it's realistic to you, because what's attainable for one person might not be attainable for the next. So two spouses going through the same journey, have your own goals. They shouldn't be each other's. To that point, they need to be relevant to you in your life. Don't latch onto the goals of others, because that's not your goals. That's just copying from someone else, and it's never going to be a big enough why for you if that's what you're doing. And then finally, time-bound. Set goals for today. I want to walk 10,000 steps today. Set goals for the week. I want to be down 1 pound by the end of the week. Set goals for the month. Set goals for the year. Set goals for 10 years. And just in life in general, the more goals you have out there, the more time-bound they are, the more you can keep pushing and motivating to that next step, that next level, and the best, healthier version of you. So be smart. I want to do a little quick fact check that everyone watching this should know. I want to pose the question, if I feel healthy, am I healthy? Now, everyone's answer should be, no, not necessarily. Feeling healthy is a great starting point. We all want to feel healthy and feel good. But we all know that you can have cancer for years and never know it. You can have heart disease building for years and not know it until it's too late. And we know in the chiropractic world, you can be subluxated for years and have no idea. The reason being, you can have up to 90% of a subluxated nerve and not feel the pain because you've adapted to it or you haven't gone far enough into that nerve. And your nervous system, like your metabolism, is so much more than just feeling. It's so much more than just weight loss. It is about healthy function and healthy life. And so we know that all sickness is a combination of deficiencies of something we need or toxicity, something that has invaded our body. And so if we can follow what we have as the 6 essentials to the best of your ability, that is how you can ensure, to the best you can, accidents notwithstanding, that you have your best version of health. That's the only way. Feeling good is not enough. 6 essentials start with 15 minutes of prayer or meditation every single day to help relieve stress and get your mind right and ready for the day. It's getting your weekly spinal range and adjustments until your x-rays are corrected, practicing good posture, sleeping on your rolls, doing your home care. That's, once you're through the makeover, making sure you're eating at least 75% of your food off the vine. When you're talking off the vine, what does that mean? Look back at that list. That is the epitome of off the vine. It's natural. We're trying to avoid those artificial and processed foods as much as you can. Doesn't mean you can't have a little bit somewhere, but the vast majority needs to be those healthy foods when you're just talking about a regular healthy life. It's getting up and moving, whether that's high intensity interval training, weightlifting, jogging, swimming, biking, whatever it is you like to do, getting up and moving to help your body function. It's getting good rest. Rest is a vastly underrated part of our health. Sleep is when we heal, it's when we recover. It's when we dedicate our resources to that. So if we're not getting good night's sleep on our prescribed rolls, if we're not waking up without the alarm clock whenever we can, if we're not trying to get that good 8 hours, it's only going to hurt us in the long run. And then finally, it's about twice a year, getting rid of the toxins you couldn't avoid by doing some sort of detox. Whether it's one we have here or one you like to do on your own, purge the body of the stuff you couldn't avoid. Otherwise, it builds up in the system, and it's going to make you sick, and it's going to hurt your metabolism. So guys, as always, we have new patient specials, $47 coupon for new patient exam, x-rays, and first adjustment. But even better for you, if you have someone you love, have them watch one of the workshops. Have them watch this one. They learn that information, they write down the sheet, bring it in with them, and all that is waived. It's a no-brainer, and it's a win-win for them. So I want to thank you so much for watching. I really hope you learned something that can help change your life even in the smallest manner. We look forward to seeing you soon, and I hope you stay healthy.